I mean, I guess I could show you the inside since I show the inside all the other manga, but here are the words if you're curious of the font. Hello all my otaku friends, my name is Profitaku and welcome back to my channel for my February manga reading log. So my goal in February was to just stay focused, pick 4 or 5 series that I just really wanted to get big chunks out of the way, and that's exactly what I did. But we do have some new series to talk about as well, so let's get started. So this first section is going to go over 6 new volume 1s courtesy of Yen Press. Thank you guys so much for supporting the channel and setting these volumes to me just so I can try them out and talk about it on the channel. And this first volume is probably the most unexpected and wild card read that I had this month, and that was Pandora 7. And it follows this girl right here who lives on an island with a bunch of other species of thingies. She lives a peaceful life, but she yearns to explore the outside world off of this island. But one day a group of humans come to the island in search of Pandora's box, and thus starts the story. It was a unique read, it was an intriguing read, but it was a surprising read. I gave it an 8.5 out of 10. The artwork is really pretty. The detail that they put into this really interesting world is very nice. However, I did have a little bit of issue with the character design. I thought that the facial proportions were a little bit weird. The story does seem a little bit cookie cutter at the surface, but because you've got all these different species and how they interact, there's a lot of interesting politics going on in this world. There's a lot of layers to be explored, and that's what made this manga very intriguing to me. I cannot wait to see what volume 2 brings. Here we are with the 4-koma manga, Doomsday with My Dog, a post-apocalyptic manga following this girl and this dog. She's the last human on Earth and she's trying to navigate this post-apocalyptic world. This manga does not take itself seriously. It's a comedy manga, and in terms of the comedy, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed the 4-koma aspect. There was a lot of variety in the episodes, and I really do enjoy the full color. The critique I have of this manga actually is the comedy, because it's very dialogue driven between our 2 main characters. So if you're not into banter, you're not into sarcasm, then this probably isn't going to be the comedy manga for you. Remember, comedy is subjective. For me, I really like this one, but for you, it may not be your cup of tea. Next up is the most controversial volume 1 that I read, and that is Honey Lemon Soda, and it follows a girl who got bullied a lot in middle school. She's trying to turn over a new leaf in high school. She continues to get bullied in high school, but this boy with lemon colored hair comes to her rescue. In terms of looking at this shoujo story, it's pretty cookie cutter, and that's the biggest issue with this manga, is that it's predictable. The biggest issue for me actually is the main female lead. She's super weak, and her character progression was basically non-existent in this first volume. It just became super predictable. I had no investment at all into her character. I don't really care where she goes from here because she just isn't strong and she doesn't have any personality to her. And then of course you've got the cool lemon-haired boy who's not trying to help her, but he helps her, and he has a good heart, but he's trying to be cool on the outside. So yeah, I mean, it's just not something that really just sparked my interest. However, I'm going to give this one 2 more volumes because it's so critically acclaimed. If I didn't know anything about this and if this wasn't as hyped up as it was, I would probably have dropped it. So here's a volume 1 I had a lot of fun with. Apparently disillusioned adventurers will save the world. This is the manga adaptation. This is a 6-volume series, and it follows a group of adventurers who have all been shunned from their group in one way or another, and then they all come together to form their own party. They're all just like abandoned puppies trying to survive this fantasy world. You know, I actually had quite a lot of fun with this. With this manga, it has to be very character driven because that's like the whole shtick of the manga, is that all these adventurers have been shunned, and all the characters are really interesting. I can't wait to see how their backstories develop. We get a little bit of one person's backstory near the end of the first volume, and I enjoyed that, so I can't wait to see everybody else's and how theirs are shelled out. In terms of the actual adventure part of this story, it's a little bit slow paced. I wanted to see the group do more things together, but I get that they needed to set up the world first, which is why I will continue to pick this up because I am intrigued to see where this series will go. If you want a fantasy adventure story about redemption, this is going to be the one for you. Next up is another fantasy adventure series, I'm Quitting Heroing, and it follows this this guy right here who defeats all the bad demon people, but then everybody in the human world kind of shuns him out, so he decides to just flip-flop to the other side. It was okay. Nothing about the actual story really intrigued me or made me want to know more about the story. It definitely made me laugh a few times, especially with the character interactions between our MC and all the different demon people. So if you are looking for something funny with funny characters, then this definitely is going to be the one for you. But in terms of a story, there's nothing that makes this go, yeah, this is a really interesting story. So the last manga that I read from Yen Press was The Princess of Convenient Plot Devices. So the story follows this girl right here who gets sent into this otome game, but the whole shtick of this world is that the predominant relationship is BL. And even though she's in her favorite otome game, she wants to carve out her own path and find her Prince Charming. But yeah, it's pretty difficult to find that when all the boys want to be with each other. I had a very clear concept of what I wanted out of this manga, which was a really funny manga about this girl just struggling with her troubles of just finding love. But this manga was very two-faced, which was my issue with it. On one hand, you get exactly what I wanted, which was this girl who's struggling to find love, and it's really funny, and there's a lot of funny face gags and really great interactions. But then on the other side, you have this like really dark, twisted political stuff going on between the family, and it just really didn't make sense with the whole vibe of the manga. I just felt like there was a big identity crisis here. What does this manga actually want to be? So I don't know if I'm going to continue with this one, because I think that this is going to continue in that two-faced type of direction, and that's not really something I'm interested in. So I wasn't sure if I was going to bring this up, but I am reading a new novel from Yen Press that they sent me, and that is Tezcatlipoca, and this follows a drug cartel in Japan, and there's a lot of different messed up dark underground stuff going on with organs and stuff like that, blood, craziness, yakuza, gangs. So if that's your cup of tea, you want something super messed up, go ahead and pick this one up. I'm about a fifth of the way through the book. I have thoroughly enjoyed it. It's kept me on the edge of my seat. So this next stack of manga I'm not going to talk about in this video because I've already talked about it in a previous video, 5 shoujo manga recs in 5 minutes. I'll leave a little card if you want to check that out, but these were the manga discussed in the video. I read The King's Beast volumes 1 and 2, My Special One volume 1, Tsubaki-Choi Lonely Planet volume 1, High School Debut volumes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, 8, 9. And then I also read The Big Boy number 6, Omnibus number 1. So if you want my more comprehensive no spoiler thoughts, check out that video, but I thoroughly enjoyed all of these manga and I highly recommend them. Now the bulk of my month was spent reading one series, and of course it's a continuation from last month. That is Gakuen Babysitters on the scans because there's no English publication of this, volumes 13 to 22, and I have to say this because this is huge. It is now my number 2 manga of all time. I gave it a 10 out of 10. It's truly a masterpiece. So if you don't know what Gakuen Babysitters is about, it's a very simple story. It follows a boy and his younger brother. Their parents die in a plane crash. They go to live with this grandma figure, and she tells the older brother that he has to go ahead and run the babysitting club at her academy. And now this boy is in charge of babysitting 5 different kids, including his younger brother. It's very interesting because I think this is the best slice of life manga out there. But it's got an 8.3 on my anime list, and I have to think, well, why is that the case? And I think it's because there's not very much character progression or sort of development. There's no end goal with this. It is super episodic. Each chapter is completely different. It's super fluffy. It's super wholesome. There's no crazy drama for the sake of drama. It's just babies being babies. But there are several heartfelt moments in here that just tug at your heartstrings. There are many, many cute episodes that will keep you wanting more. And my biggest thing about a slice of life is that there needs to be variety, and they need to use its world to its advantage, and Gakuen Babysitters checks all those boxes for me. So please, I highly implore you, if you really are interested in this series, check out the English scans. They're very well done. So let's get on to the rest of the physical reads I had this month. And this was probably the most disappointing volume I read this month, and that is Rainbow Days Volume 2. I did a whole first volume impression on this manga. I'll leave a little card, and I thoroughly enjoyed Volume 1, but I felt like this is just going in a direction that I just don't like. And it's not like a dilemma, like I don't actually like where the story is going. I just don't like the way that it's paced out in the volume. So in this volume, we only get like 1 or 2 chapters where there's actually legitimate development to the story. And then the rest of the chapters are all filler chapters going into other characters' backstories or like just slice of life episodes not really involving the boys. And I'm like, this is a little soon for that, don't you think? I mean, we're only on the second volume. Let's just see a little bit more progression, then we can kind of do all the side stuff. So yeah, that was my biggest issue with it. I just didn't get to see enough of the main thing, which were the boys and the boys' funny things that they do, and more character development in the relationships that happen in this story. So thoroughly disappointing. I know that it's going to get better. I feel like this is just going to be a one-time thing, but yeah, I just was like, okay, like next up is a volume 1 that got sent to me from Marguerite's manga, and that is Dawn of the Arcana, and it follows a girl who is forced to marry the prince from the opposing country so that there can be political peace. If you want a political drama-filled love triangle, then this manga is for you. My whole vibe with this manga is I think it's just like a worse rendition of Yona. I just know I'm gonna get so much hate in the comments after that statement, but I am intrigued about this world and where it's gonna go from here. I heard that the ending of this manga is superb, so I'm definitely intrigued because of that. So I went ahead and picked up some other volumes of this. I'm not saying that I didn't enjoy it. I just felt like it was something pretty standard in terms of the fantasy political manga shoujo. So I have to read more of this in March so I can give you guys a firm statement of whether I think this is a good series to pick up. Now, speaking of the Yona ripoff, we actually have Yona of the Dawn. So I read volumes 2 to 7 this month. It was a good stopping place for me. And let me just say, Yona, every single volume continues to bring the heat. It is super interesting. I am so much invested into the characters, where they're going to go, the political drama, the romantic feelings that are happening with a lot of different characters. It's a lot of fun. The different settings of each arc are super interesting. And then the way that we get background information on all of our characters, even some side characters, is really intriguing. This is such a well-written manga. It is such a well-drawn manga, and I cannot believe it took me this long to read it. Oh yeah, and also he's my favorite character with the little squirrel thing in there. No, they're just great. Next up is a series that's highly talked about on Mangagram. KK-chan is a girl is just promoting this series all the time. I was like, I'm gonna go ahead and start reading it, and it is Love of Kill volumes 1 to 7, and it follows 2 assassins on kind of opposite sides of the spectrum working together. Of course, there's a lot more going on in this story, especially with their backstories and how they're intertwined with each other, but I think it's all presented very well, super fast paced, lots of great action, and I just cannot wait to see where this story goes. Now let me tell you the biggest issue I had with this manga, and that was actually volume 1. It was way too vague. There were a couple filler chapters in here actually, and I just had a ton of questions, and I basically sent this list of questions to KK-chan. I said, look, is this gonna get any better? Because if these questions don't get answered soon, I can't follow this series. I just am very confused on what's going on. And KK-chan said, yes, your questions will be answered. Go ahead and keep reading it. And I'm so glad I did, because all my questions did get answered. I really do like the artwork. It seems pretty basic here at the beginning, but in later volumes, the mangaka finds out how to use a lot of the digital art stuff, so the character designs become a lot more crisp. But actually, you know what's the most ironic thing about reading this series is that once my questions got answered, then I got confused a little bit more. So I sent KK-chan like a story synopsis of what I thought was going on, and she was like, yeah, no, you're getting all the characters mixed up. So another big pet peeve that I have is that this manga definitely needs a character map, because some of the character designs and the faces look the same, so you're gonna get the names mixed up. I feel like I'm just saying a ton of negatives about this series, but I am thoroughly enjoying this josei manga. So if you're looking to get into josei, so you're gonna have a little bit of romance in there, but it's a little bit darker, a little bit more serious, lots of action, this is a great gateway josei manga. Only a few more series here, so let's rapid fire through them. We have Eminence in Shadow volumes 4 and 5. This finishes my buddy read with Elite Collector. This new arc is just as much fun as the previous arc, and I just love this manga so much. It's a comedy isekai manga. You have our MC who gets isekai'd into this fantasy world. He wants to be the Eminence in Shadow. He wants to be the background character, but he's just super overpowered. It's really funny because he just starts making all this crap up, but it's actually coming true, but he doesn't actually know it. So that just makes this manga super funny. The only gripe that I had with this manga was actually the pacing of this new arc. It went really fast. It was pretty hard to follow what was going on. I had to backtrack a few times, but after I figured it out, it was a very solid arc that brought a lot of great development to our main story. So you know how I said that Rainbow Days Volume 2 is the most disappointing thing that I read this month? That's wrong, because I forgot about this one, and it is Break of Dawn. It's a sci-fi 2-volume omnibus one-shot from Kodansha. 10 chapters long. Oh, I wanted to love this so bad, but I just can't. So the story follows our boy and this robot companion here. They don't really get along, but one day they go up to the top of an apartment building. They discover a secret that had been lying dormant in Earth, and then they have to take that information and run with it. I think the biggest issue for me is that the sci-fi aspect of this series was completely dropped. You know, you're trying to figure out this secret, and then you figure out the secret, and to me personally, I wasn't like, wow, this is like such a unique, amazing world. I was just like, okay. But then an even bigger issue than the sci-fi issue was actually the way that this manga story was laid out. You get presented with this sci-fi aspect, and then it just kind of goes away, and it turns more into a character study following a group of children and their dynamic with each other, which is all fine. But when it takes up 8 of the 10 chapters in this manga and then they throw all the sci-fi stuff at the end, it just feels so unsatisfying. And then of course, with me not really caring for the sci-fi aspect of it, it was just a recipe for disaster. So this was a thorough disappointment for me. I really wanted this to be something special because it reminded me of Satoshi Mizukami with the artwork and the sci-fi premise, but nope, it just let me down. There are also some really annoying characters in here that do absolutely nothing to the story, and it just really bothered me that they were even included in a series this short. And then on top of that, there were other characters in here that could have played a really interesting and unique role to the story that really didn't do anything at all because they just got no screen time. So the wrong characters were just in the wrong places. As you can see, I just really didn't like it. I gave it a 5 out of 10. You know, if you are intrigued with this, you know, check out the synopsis on my anime list. If you want to buy it off of me, let me know. I'll sell it to you for cheap if you really want to check it out, because I think that somebody out there is gonna like it, but I just found that there were just too many problems with the story. Okay, light novel time. We have Bofuri, Max Out My Defense, Volume 4. So this was great. I love Bofuri. I love the power system. This whole volume actually encompasses one event, and that event is super fun. It's even better than all the previous events. I love that Bofuri continues to up the ante in all these events. Even though this is just supposed to be a super fun comedic isekai manga, it is just great. So if you're looking for something super light-hearted, super turn your brain off, an easy light novel read, Bofuri is the way to go. So the last manga series that I read this month, a big chunk, I hope to finish it in March, and that is Mobile Suit Gundam Thunderbolt. I read volumes 10 to 14, and oh my goodness, I was super hesitant about this series, but these 5 volumes have just put this into the top 25 for me. So there's one arc in this set of volumes that I read. It's called the Tall Volcano arc, and it is easily one of the top 5 arcs I've ever read in all of manga. The character development is insane. The political tension and the political actions are insane. The battles between the teams and all these different moving parts in this Tall Volcano is insane. And the ramifications of this arc and the way that the arc wrapped up were insane. It was an insane arc. Insane. Mobile Suit Gundam Thunderbolt has a phenomenal story. I think where it suffered was that it just had some weird writing problems in the beginning in terms of the pacing and how they laid out the story, but this story has really come into its own now. I cannot wait to see where things go from here. Big mic drop moments. It was a lot of fun. In chapter 109, it stated in the manga that there was an art change because the mangaka started getting sick. And when I say art change, it's a very drastic art change, like really, really different, but it slowly gets better as the mangaka starts to feel better. So that was very promising. I was definitely alarmed to see that type of change because the artwork in Mobile Suit Gundam Thunderbolt is chef's kiss. It's beautiful. But yeah, it's definitely something to be aware of. And that is my manga reading log for the month of February. I hope you enjoyed all my non-spoiler thoughts. I cannot wait to show you guys what I'm reading in March. My goal in March is to finish a ton of series that I've been reading for several months so I can move on to some different series. As always, if you enjoy my content, please hit that like button, tap the subscribe button, hit that notification bell so that you know when more of my videos come out, and I will see you in the next one. Take care now. Bye-bye.